granniopteryx, granniopteryx. She knows the truth, she's linking every link.
Hello. A couple of days ago I made a video about a barely comprehensible piece of writing published as an academic paper. In the subsequent tidal wave of comments, one of my subscribers sent me a deathless piece of prose from a philosopher called Judith Butler. This is the Wikipedia entry for Judith Butler. It says she's an American feminist, queer philosopher and gender studies scholar. Well, I would describe her as a queer philosopher, but I'm not entirely sure that I'd be using the word in the same way that it is used here. Whatever. Although I've heard Judith Butler's name mentioned, I've never read anything by the lady, and when I saw the piece sent to me by that subscriber, I understood that in being unacquainted with her work, I've had, so far, a very charmed existence. I suppose it was too good to last. But I'm always up for a challenge, and so I'll go through the paragraph to try to decipher it. Now, where is it? Let's have a look. I have to warn you, though, there is a distinct possibility that I'm going to get it completely wrong. But that is exactly the point. I'm going to do my honest best to translate it into English, but the fact is, it's a jumble of concepts and uses words so opaque and in such an opaque way that I'm quite sure all sorts of different people could interpret it in different ways. And in my humble opinion, that's not the way any piece of writing should operate. And if by some stroke of fate I do happen to get it right, then why didn't she say that in the first place? Before I start, I want to tell you about an experience I had as a teenager. Yeah, I happened upon a quotation. At the time, I didn't know it was written by Barbara Tuchman. Tuchman has been described both as a journalist and as a historian, or an historian, as some people might say. And I think that the journalist part of the description is the important bit here. As a journalist, Tuchman trained to write for the masses, and therefore her style is clear, straightforward and descriptive, and she never fell into the academic snobism of obscure language. So, with a slight bit of paraphrasing, this is what she said. It became my lodestone, and I want anyone watching this video to make it your lodestone as well. She said, "A book is no less scholarly for being readable, and it is no more intellectual for being dull." And as I say, I think that's a piece of advice for life. And with that in mind, on with the Judith Butler show. So, I'm going to read it all in one go, and then I'm going to break it down. It needs breaking down. The move from a structuralist account in which capital is understood to structure social relations in relatively homologous ways to a view of hegemony in which power relations are subject to repetition, convergence and rearticulation, brought the question of temporality into the thinking of structure and marked a shift from a form of Althusserian theory that takes structural totalities as theoretical objects to one in which the insights into the contingent possibility of structure inaugurate a renewed conception of hegemony, as bound up with the contingent sites and strategies of the rearticulation of power. It's just impossible, absolutely impossible. And well, apart from anything else, the word structure keeps getting used again and again and again and again. I mean, that's just bad style. Anyway, structuralist apparently means the study of patterns within language or culture. So she could have used structuralist, and she could have used other things like the study of patterns or anything like that. Homologous means similar, and you could have used similar rather than homologous. Hegemony, the cultural or economic dominance of a particular group. Well, yeah, that's a word. That is actually a word that's useful. That is useful. Rearticulation means how things fit together. So there is no reason to use rearticulation. You can just talk about how things fit together or join up or whatever. Temporality apparently means how people perceive time when they're living through it. That reminds me of a George Burns and Gracie Allen routines, where apparently Gracie Allen asked George Burns, "What's this? The theory of Einstein's theory of relativity all about?" And George Burns said, "Well, it's like this. If a man is kissing a pretty girl, an hour goes past like a minute. But if he's sitting on a hot stove, a minute goes past like an hour." And then there was a silence. And then Gracie Allen said, "From this, Einstein made a living?" Okay, I probably didn't say it with quite the same comedy timing that she did. All right. Anyway, temporality is how people perceive time when they're living through it. Just in case you didn't know, Louis Althusser was busy reinterpreting Marxism, and he had Marxist he had a sort of development on Marxist theory of how society operates. And contingent, that's dependent on future events. So, the move from a structuralist account in which capital is understood to structure social relations in relatively homologous ways to a view of hegemony in which power relations are subject to repetition, convergence, and rearticulation. I think that took me up to this. So, there has been a move from a general view that the world and social relations are governed by capitalism to a view that power relations in a dominant culture, hang on, where are we? In a dominant culture may change and marked a shift from a form of Althusserian theory that takes structural totalities as theoretical objects to one in which the insights into the contingent possibility of structure inaugurate a renewed conception of hegemony as bound up with the contingent sites and strategies of the rearticulation of power. And I believe that what she's saying here is that this has marked a shift from the Althusserian theory, which regards social structure as a theory, to a view of society in which circumstances cause us to review how hegemony might change depending on circumstances. Now, even that is a bit too much because I boiled it down even more. Earlier theories that capitalism forces people to behave in a certain way have been moved away from the Althusserian theory that social relations are a fixed construction to the idea that power structures change depending on circumstances. In other words, she's stating the bleeding obvious. There's a theory that capitalism forces people to act in certain ways, and these ways are predictable, and that's changed. People now think maybe people act differently according to the circumstances they're in. That is it, so far as I can work it out. I am not going to go through this word by word because half of the words don't mean anything. I'm sorry, Ms. Dr. or Professor Butler, I don't know quite what titles you're entitled to, but that's it. It's not only a word salad, it's a word stew, isn't it? Okay, well anyway, there you are. I got all of that, first of all, into this, and then into this. And it's reasonable to say that. It is not reasonable to say this. I do my best to read all the comments, and I learn from them. And also, as you can see, I get some very interesting stuff. And if you find something as remarkable as this, please send it in. I'd be happy to have a go at translating it. Okay, till next time. You can help my channel by subscribing and clicking the notification bell. That's quite important. And by sharing if you're so inclined. Links to my other channels and to donation methods are in the description. But the best way you can help is simply by clicking like and notify. Thank you.